Hello, everybody. Welcome to Flora's webinar. We're going to give everybody a couple of seconds to just filter in here, and then we'll dive in. Thanks, everybody who's just jumping in now. We're just waiting for everybody to filter in from the waiting room, and we'll get started. All right. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to our webinar where we're going to discuss Flora's recent acquisition of JustCBD. To start everything off, we'll just read a quick disclaimer. So just want to remind participants that many of the comments today will be considered forward-looking statements and are subject to numerous risks and uncertainties that may cause the company's actual results to differ materially from what has been communicated. Forward-looking statements made today are effective only as of today, and the company undertakes no obligation to update forward-looking statements. For a discussion of some of the factors that could cause our actual results to differ, please review the risk factors section of our registration statement on Form F1, recently filed with the SEC. We've updated the investor relations section of our website with the company's recent releases as well. So if you need anything, it all lives there on our new website. All right, well, let's get started today. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Like I said at the top, as all of you know, we recently completed the acquisition of JustCBD. We announced that transaction on Monday. And obviously, in addition to being an incredible creative opportunity for our business, and I think more importantly, we were able to gain some incredible human capital, not least of which is Hussein Rakeen, who is here. He is the founder and CEO of JustCBD. He was also named 30 under 30 by Forbes this year. So welcome to Hussein. And then, of course, we also have the rest of the Flora management team here. So we have Luis Merchant, who is our CEO. He is joining us, and he'll lead much of this call. And for the first time on one of our webinars, we have our newly named Chief Strategy Officer, James Cho. So welcome, James. And I am Jessie Kasner. I am the Chief Marketing Officer here at Flora. So without any further ado, let's jump in. I know there have been a lot of questions. I appreciate everybody who sent in questions in advance of the webinar. But obviously, if you have questions that come up during our discussion, please feel free to drop them into the Q&A section. We'll do our best to answer as many as we can. We have a lot of attendees today, but we'll do our best. So Hussein, I think the best place to start would be to give everybody just a quick overview of JustCBD and its founding and how you've been able to achieve the success that you have across the last few years.
Absolutely. JustCBD's history goes back to 2017. Well, first I want to start by saying I'm very excited to be as part of this Flora team and excited to be doing this. So I appreciate everybody for watching. But in terms of the history for JustCBD, we started back in 2017. I was actually working at a distribution warehouse, and this thing called CBD began to pop up, and it became very trendy, and a lot of our customers were asking for it. My mom, unfortunately, was very ill at the time. I had a lot of pain, a lot of fatigue, and I heard that CBD could potentially help her. Now, what the bad part about this all is that the products that were on the market at the time, I wasn't really comfortable giving it to my own mom, and so we sought out to really go make a product for her. So our first product was a honey tincture. My mom really likes honey. We put CBD and honey together, and I gave it to her to try, and she fell in love with it. At the time, she was on a cocktail of pills, prescribed by the doctor, and she wasn't feeling too well about that. And she started to, go into the CBD and more wellness, and she really liked that. So we released the products, and the rest is history. From the beginning, our initial warehouse was 2 file cabinets. So we had a 4-foot tall file cabinet. That was all of our products. One drawer was gummies. The next was tinctures. Fast forward a couple years later, we're in 50,000 square feet of space. We have over 300 products. We're in 14,000 stores, both in the US and internationally, as well as 150 distributors across the country. So very fast growth, and we're definitely one of the largest CBD companies in the world today.
And I mean, that is absolutely astronomical growth. And I think that that story is, how you founded it resonates probably with a lot of people who have come to cannabis and to CBD more specifically across the last few years. So thank you for sharing that. What in your mind led to that rapid success? So I know you've talked a lot about sort of, how you started and why you started, but what are those key pillars of success for you guys?
Look, it really starts with quality. First and foremost, at the time that we started, I wanted to make a quality product specifically for my mom. But I know there's many people like my mom out there that wanted a quality CBD product, and they didn't want to be misled. So from day one, we just focused on quality. Third-party lab testing was huge for us. We wanted to ensure that I wasn't the only one saying it was good quality. It was actually a third party. And we work with some of the biggest labs in the country today to ensure that. And really just having a world-class science team. So that was one of our first key hires. The second thing is diversity of revenue. So our retail strategy is not focused on one individual retailer or mass market distributor. It is diverse. Those 14,000 stores, really the biggest of them are probably 30 locations. So if you could see how much diversity we have within our retail channel, that allows us to really be one of the biggest in CBD, but also not dependent on any one buyer. And the third thing, which I think really makes us stick out like a sore thumb, for lack of a better word, is our profitability, right? So we are very profitable, which is very rare in the CBD space. Some of our big competitors are not profitable. All competitors are not profitable, but we are, and that was definitely a focus of ours from day one.
Absolutely. Yeah. Profitability unlocks a lot of opportunity. That's for sure.
Absolutely does. Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you for giving us kind of that, just setting the table for us as to who JustCBD is, and looking back on your previous success, and obviously much more success to come. What I think might be helpful now for everybody on the call, and for anybody who joined us on our State of Play call just a couple weeks ago, this may be a bit redundant, but Luis, I'd love for you to start and highlight what the global opportunity of CBD is as Flora sees it today. And James and Hussein, obviously, please jump in as well.
Thank you, Jesse. Look, I first, before I make some comments on the opportunity for CBD, I certainly have to commend the team that is in this webinar today. James Cho, who is dressed up to the T today for all of our audience today. He just clearly is highlighting the importance of communicating and being transparent to our investors and our consumers today. And of course, Hussein, who's an incredible addition to our team. I am just couldn't be prouder. I smile. I have a big smile because I have an incredible team surrounding me today. And I would say, from a Flora's perspective, now moving to your question, Jesse, when you look at the cannabis industry, we talked in terms of there's several numbers that are floated out there because we don't have true access to what the black market currently is, but it's anywhere between $200 and $300 billion, right? And almost 40 to 50% of that is coming from dry flower. Then about 15 to 20% is coming out of the food and beverage ingestible category. Okay. The regulatory framework globally is changing rapidly, but we do know that the non-psychoactive component of cannabis is one that it will likely have lower barriers of entry than, say, the psychoactive counterparts or even dry flower, and that makes CBD a very attractive proposition. Now, in the short term, over the last couple of years, we have seen a pressure of CBD on the raw material space, and as producers and growers started pumping out tons and tons of these raw materials, prices crashed dramatically. But on the other side of the spectrum, the brand and product portfolio started experiencing a very robust growth, especially the leaders in the industry like JustCBD. That's what attracted us to the opportunity. A brand that was established, that acquired a loyal consumer base, that enjoyed great margins, and of course deliver profitability. So I think in terms of the potential for the global cannabis industry in terms of CBD, we are yet to tap the potential of what the CBD space will be on a global scale. We look to expand the reach of JustCBD and amplify it with the resources that we have, with the infrastructure and the supply chain that we have set up already, and look forward to a very meaningful number of years of high growth in this category.
James or Hussein, anything to add?
Luis always does well to nail it. The only thing I would add on, obviously Hussein's an exceptional entrepreneur. It's exceptional to see somebody that's charted his own territory through a very riddled, challenging market. And I think the one thing that excites me the most as I look at global is he focused on the right pillars in building his brand. Everything about customer support and service, responsiveness, building the framework that is scalable to deliver the same experience that's become synonymous with JustCBD as a brand name to other global markets is something very exciting and attractive. Sometimes a lot of brands and markets or companies will assume that, oh, we've done some things well, that taking that same framework to other countries might be an easy duplication, but it isn't. So when the business is founded on the right pillars and the right focus and delivering the most compelling experiences to its consumers, no matter what market it's in, that's the beginning of a recipe for success.
I appreciate that, guys.
So as we let everybody know about the history of JustCBD, what the global potential of CBD is, I know because I can see the chat here and the questions that are coming in. Luis, I think everybody would be curious to know, of all of the players that exist within the CBD space, and there are many, although there are very few as large as JustCBD is, why JustCBD?
Oh my God, Hussein is going to get lots of compliments today.
No.
Let's go.
I would just say, look, we go back to the overall M&A strategy of our company, and Flora Growth has always been founded on the idea that human capital is the foundation of a great company. And that stands true to our M&A strategy. The first component of it was, do we have great leaders, great operators running the company? And when it comes to that, Hussein and his partners, by the way, stood above the rest. We met with several players in the CBD space, and Hussein has proven to be not only an entrepreneur, very agile and very creative, but also an exceptional operator. And like there's a lot of meaningful positive news about JustCBD, but the idea that there was no debt raised, there was no financing, this team built this company from the ground up on their own organically, and that just shows exceptional financial discipline and operations. I was convinced about JustCBD from day one because the interaction with Hussein was an incredible one. Not only we're looking for people that can operate, but also in frank terms, Jesse, we want to work with good people, and that translates into great products. That translates into taking care of the consumer. It translates into having great service levels. Of course, that translates also to what we did with Vessel, and why James and you yourself are here and being a part of the team. But the other two components of JustCBD are distribution and revenues. And I think it's important that we highlight those. The diversified nature of the distribution network of JustCBD was incredibly attractive. Anchored in Florida, obviously where our headquarters are, the distribution network of over 14,000 distribution channels, not an over reliance on one client on another, very diversified, hyper growth in the international space. That was very interesting to us, and a very robust direct to consumer channel of distribution as well. And then revenues, we saw the numbers of 2020. There's $28 million in revenue. There's $7 million in EBITDA. Leader in the CBD space that stands above the rest, and that obviously made it an easy decision for me.
James, I'd be curious to hear from your perspective what you saw in JustCBD. This was your first acquisition as a part of Flora. So being on the Flora side of an acquisition versus the Vessel side where we were just last year. And obviously taking on your new role as Chief Strategy Officer. I'd just be curious to get your perspective.
Luis touched on it really well again. When you have all the signs of getting to revenue as quickly as they did, and having a sizable customer base, just sharing some statistics between Vessel and JustCBD together, it's nearing about 500,000 customers that we service on a direct basis. It's a position of strength, and strategically being able to shape customer expectation by having direct relationship is such an important facet of our business. It really develops a launch pad for us to develop new products, to innovate further. One of the things that Hussein and I talked about early on was they've done so well to get to this point, being resource restricted or being private and smaller. The idea of being able to now to have access to capital to invest further in product innovation, really to stay out in front and out on the edge. It's a great opportunity for us to continue to differentiate the brand and invest further in the type of experiences that consumers will receive from here on out. Needless to say, expansion to into international new markets is always exciting. But overall, when Hussein and I talk about the business, the idea of investing into it to further its growth by accelerating the product engine, and more so even continued education around the consumer, seems to be the top two pillars.
Thank you. Great to hear that. We talk a lot about this inside of the four walls of Flora, but our core pillars of people, design, and community, and it sounds like JustCBD hits all of those. So no surprise on my end, but I think it's informative for the listeners to hear that as well. So Hussein, as important as it is for us to discuss why we were interested in JustCBD, it's critical that everybody understand, especially as you were courted by a number of different suitors over the course of the life of the brand, why Flora?
Well, I mean, you're absolutely right. From early on, early 2018, we had people quite honestly knocking on our door and trying to conduct some M&A transactions. It was never a right fit for us. There were larger companies and they had checkbooks and that's fine. But really, we see just CBD in general as still being in its infancy. We don't think CBD is going anywhere. We think it's just getting started. So we want to be a part of that. And if we want to be a part of that in the long term, we want to be able to grow with not only a well-experienced team, but like Luis said earlier, quite frankly, good people. That's very important to be able to operate at the highest level. But in terms of from a business sense, there's three big points for us that why we chose Flora. The first one is international infrastructure. Our fastest growing market right now is internationally. We're in a hyper growth stage. So the international infrastructure that Flora has built is second to none within the cannabis space. They've done amazing things in Colombia, as well as internationally, Germany and Israel and everywhere else. So that was huge for us to be able to have a platform for JustCBD to grow internationally. The second thing is really experience. The experience that the corporate team at Flora has, from the CEO Luis Merchant, with his Macy's experience, to James and you, Jesse. That's something that was really attractive to us. Being able to leverage what you guys know and have done so well for so long, and plugging that into the network that we have and plug that into the team that we have was really exciting. And the third thing is really access to capital, right? So Flora Growth being a publicly traded NASDAQ company, having the access to capital that they have and being able to expand into manufacturing, being able to expand internationally, being able to expand product lines. Historically, we've been so restricted on capital, being a CBD company, being a private CBD company. We were not a fan of debt. We were not a fan of raising money through equity. But this was definitely something that was very exciting for us, being able to have that capital to grow.
Thanks. So as we look forward, the Just Brands deal got announced on Monday. The two teams are starting to get to know each other a little bit more. I think we're all excited about that. I'd be curious to hear from each of you, maybe 2 or 3 points around the synergies that exist between the existing Flora Growth business and the existing JustCBD business. And I'll let Luis kick it off.
I think I don't want to I don't want to steal James or Hussein's thunder. Let's you two go first, and then I'll close it. I think I'm gonna be left with nothing to say.
All right,
Let's
James.
start, James.
We'll start with
Yeah,
James.
sure enough. Look, we've followed very similar paths. Our deal was completed back in November, and we had very similar business models, very similar philosophies about what businesses we were building. And again, going back to what Luis said is our key pillars, emphasizing people and a way of thinking is absolutely number one. And it makes it really easy then to think about integration. Even as of this morning, we're already talking about the accretive nature of two businesses that have functioned in the same space within cannabis and plant-based wellness, leveraging not only distribution into new markets, but also product design, innovation. Now we have bi-coastal fulfillment to even accelerate time to consumers on both sides of the market. And then the just general driving force that when you start to build a community and an audience of 500,000 people, it does start to grow exponentially the more time that we start introducing more innovative product to the market. And the idea that we're collectively building an even larger community quickly, we'd like to aim for 1 million plus worldwide. The idea of controlling our own destiny, and again, the experience is so important. We know that this market's flooded with commodity product. The idea that we can be the pure purveyors or curators of a combination of education and great product solutions, that to me is what's most exciting. But other than that, again, it goes back to distribution and revenue opportunities. We're capitalizing on it now, and it should only continue to grow for years to come.
And James, just while we have you on this point, can you highlight some of the key points of the Vessel and Speedy distribution deal that we had a press release go out this morning about it, and might be helpful because it really does help to illustrate some of the synergies that we have between the two organizations.
Absolutely. Timing is everything. It's kind of funny. When we started the business, we were honest about what we could service well, and obviously direct to consumer, you've heard it 100 times. That's an area that we're very proficient. But there were certain channels that Hussein on the other side of the country has been spending a good part of 15 years building exceptional strength and influence in certain channels like smoke shops and other mom and pop stores that we traditionally ignored. And so for a few years, we built our business up on other channels that now, when you merge with what Hussein's built in his time, Speedy Distribution services thousands of stores in the lower Southeast. It's a channel that we've ignored that we know is absolutely upside for our business. But when you position two groups that have had exceptional strength in different channels, but they come together and combine as one, that's where it gets really exciting. So Vessel will be the premier high-end top shelf offering within those channels. But where it gets really interesting is putting resources and investment towards developing lower to middle market products as well that push the envelope in terms of design and consumer experiences. So we've looked at top sellers within the categories. Hussein and his team will be part of our product development, but the idea of developing bespoke solutions, again, to up the design language within those categories, added with their exceptional distribution relationships, should add immense impact to the revenue line. So those are immediately, again, we're plowing down that lane right now, just developing product. We're excited to launch that towards the back half of this year. Great,
thanks. Hussein.
There's so many synergies within this deal, and it really gets me excited. I'm just piggybacking off what James said. The cannabis accessories industry is again in its infancy. There's not a lot of large players creating quality product. It's a very unsaturated market. So what James has done, and you as well, Jesse, is you guys have created a very high quality premium accessory that people love. It's a beautiful product, and it's accessible. You guys have done that in a certain channel, and where JustCBD has thrived for so long is in that mom and pop, 14,000 individual stores, and it's exciting to be able to take those high quality products that you guys have designed and plug them into our network. Our relationships are very long-standing. They're very deep relationships, and I think our customers would appreciate the products that you guys have developed, and the products that we're working to develop. Right, it's a huge market. It's untapped, and it's ripe for the picking. So we're really excited about that. But to touch upon what James said earlier, logistics, having the East Coast, West Coast distribution warehouses now allows us to ship anywhere pretty quickly. Design, what you guys have done in terms of your design, the team that you guys have is incredible. JustCBD could definitely use that and elevate in terms of design. And then, last but certainly not least, the international markets, right? Flora has such a strong international infrastructure that JustCBD could leverage. So we're really excited about that.
Great. Luis.
Okay, yes, I was left with a couple of things. I would just say, I would just say that the integration of portions of the supply chain and the existing portfolio of the balance of Flora growth is a tremendous opportunity that we have here. And I think so. A couple of questions from Bill Kirk on the chat box around that. Do we expect to incorporate our own CBD in the future for the development of manufacturing of JustCBD products? The answer is yes. In the future, we expect to do that. Do we expect to expand the skincare portfolio, topicals portfolio, and other product categories like our clothing line? The answer is absolutely yes. We're going to leverage our entire portfolio across the entire network of distribution both ways. And in that regard, it's exceptionally accretive, as both of James and Hussein mentioned. It almost complemented the map for us, this acquisition. So it puts us in a great footing to take advantage of the existing infrastructure for both of our companies.
Great segue. What I'd like to touch on now is exactly that, the footprint of each of the organizations and how we're starting to create this more robust global network. From the beginning, Flora has been built with a global eye. We've always intended to move globally. We've had long-standing relationships in other markets beyond Colombia, where our grow operation is. Obviously, the acquisitions that are happening here in the United States and North America are pretty clear around that footprint. But Luis, if maybe you could highlight sort of our key markets, and then Hussein, I'd love for you to come in and highlight where you guys are already operating.
Yeah, of course. I mean, clearly, as the regulatory framework continues to change and evolve around the globe, we're going to prioritize those areas of the world in which we're able to operate more freely, have lower barriers of entry, and have enough consumers that we're going to be able to operate profitable. And with that regard, the number one market will continue to be the US, both strong footprint of both the East and West Coast, as has been mentioned. That will continue to be number one. Number two will be Colombia, because our base of operations, the foundation of our company, our grow, our extraction facility, as well as our manufacturing lab is located there in Colombia, and is the building ground, the building blocks of our global infrastructure. And then in the balance of the Americas, obviously Mexico presents itself as a tremendous opportunity, as the Mexican market is making meaningful moves from a legalization standpoint. We already sell several of our topical creams in major distributors like Walmart.com and Dobel stores. So many other distribution agreements that are yet to be announced that are in the works. But we expect the Mexican market to be a very interesting one for us. And then looking into the balance of the world, both Germany and Israel stand apart. We clearly announced the distribution agreement with Artos, a well-established company that has a track record of operating in Israel. We're going to continue to look into the Germany market, of course, because of all the changes that are happening from a regulatory standpoint, and we expect to make some meaningful announcements over the short term in those parts of the world.
Great, thank you.
Just to piggyback off what Luis said, I mean, on a JustCBD side, historically, our fastest growing market right now is internationally, specifically the UK, also France and Germany. We're seeing tremendous growth, month over month, week over week at this point. It reminds me of what, CBD when it first came to the States, and how excited people were to try it and to buy it, and just, hyper growth. And that's what we're seeing now internationally. So it's exciting to see that again. But we also sell in South American markets as well as Asian markets. So international growth is fun, and it's also it's a beautiful market to be in right now.
As we're talking about international markets and even domestic markets, one question that we got from Richard here in the chat, but aside from markets, what segments are we looking to address, whether that is more white label ingredient provider versus finished goods like the JustCBD? Is the white label ingredient provider a part of the Flora growth plan? How big a part of the plan is it? And what does that look like as it as it comes to fruition.
Absolutely, it is. And I will let James and Hussein add a little bit of comment, but our three strategic growth pillars are: number one, commercial wholesale, which includes, of course, the exports of dry flower, derivatives, raw materials and raw ingredients, as well as white label products for our multiple operating units, such as tech accessories, as well as edibles and food and beverage products. The second one is brands and a portfolio of brands and products that allows us to enjoy higher margins and also have a relationship with the consumer, with the community, one at a time. And the third one is the pharmaceutical, medical, life science portion of our business, which includes over the short term high investment, a moderate investment, I would say, in scientific based research that allows us to inform consumers and patients about the benefits of all the molecules of cannabis. And of course, these three growth pillars will activate based on the regulatory framework of the countries that we operate and also the time period that we may be discussing.
There's commentary I'll add. In terms of market segments, private label or white label, and just global supply chains in general, I don't think we noted this, but between all of us collectively, we've been a part of launching over thousands of SKUs into the market. There's strong proficiency within this management team and our broader team to manage what are complicated global supply chains. Another thing that I can highlight is that even as the businesses, when you take a look at JustCBD, when you take a look at Vessel and Flora collectively, we've had collectively a servant attitude about our position in this market and how we support others in the marketplace as well. Meaning that there are opportunities to use proficiencies where we excel to support other customers. Sometimes that is other businesses in a B2B fashion. The reality is we think it's important to do that, to elevate raise the bar, I guess, and the standard across the industry. It gives clear highlight to those that are doing the extra hard work to stay out in front and become leaders within their respective spaces. But it is, bottom line, it's revenue opportunity for us to use service, to be able to provide product to a broader audience, even others that are aspiring to start up and become the next Vessel or the next JustCBD. And so they're all important. This is one community, as an entire marketplace, and we're just doing our part to make sure that we're playing a role in supporting with great quality and a great philosophy driving the customer experience.
I think James and Luis hit the nail on its head. I think it's JustCBD. We carry over 15 categories, right? So we have from topicals to pet products to edibles and bath and body. We've always catered to a large amount of the population. We never wanted to segment anybody out. In terms of being able to white label those products, we do have the capabilities of doing it today. We also do want to expand that in the future. So really, the sky's the limit. I mean, we can white label. We could also continue to develop our product lines within those categories or outside of those categories, right? Because there's also categories that we've historically not tackled due to restrictions of capital. So we're very excited to get to work and begin continue to grow.
I can add one more comment too. There's aspirations within our group. We did reauthor a mission statement to include all of plant-based wellness and lifestyle brands. And while predominantly our focus will be in cannabis and hemp and namely in CBD and cannabis, we did recognize that there's a broader opportunity to deliver wellness and meaningful experience to customers by broadening what we have in terms of access with raw materials, new crops, plants, herbs, you name it. How they all come together is where a ton of the excitement lies for me personally. Leveraging, again, audiences that we've built, being able to introduce and pioneer a new product, new category. This is just where it starts. And so again, you have the pedigree in the room. We have proven ourselves and earned a seat at the table, but broadening the mission to include more diverse product offering is certainly an exciting point.
So at this point, I'd like to start start moving into some of our Q&A that we've received here as we've been speaking, as well as some of the Q&A that we received before the start of the webinar. So again, thank you all for dropping those in. If you guys can continue to drop Q&As in, like I said, we'll get to as many as we can. So this one will be more for Luis and James, but rapid expansion can often mean capital intensive activities. So as you look to invest in the JustCBD brand and maybe even more broadly, what do you foresee as necessary to expand, or can you fund it through revenue generation? Are we looking toward additional financing? And that was a question that came in from an anonymous attendee, but any additional financing in the next 12 to 24 months?
Not within your current infrastructure, that is the answer, Jesse. Like the reality of the cannabis space is that the industry is going to a significant period of consolidation. And there's some great players out there like JustCBD that are doing a fantastic job, and they want to partner with a market leader like Flora. So we're going to evaluate each one of those opportunities as it comes. And if an incredible opportunity comes that would require us to make some moves from a capital standpoint, we would consider that. But as it exists today, our infrastructure, it's sufficient and we have a path to profitability. Clearly, a big part of this is the acquisition of JustCBD. Like JustCBD is a company that is highly profitable. It has been well operated. We're not looking to. It's very difficult to get in the market of distressed assets or companies that are in trouble. That's not part of our ethos. It's not part of our M&A strategy. We're only looking to work within our means in terms of financial operations and execution, and looking to partner with companies that are doing the same.
I'll add to, there's absolutely incentive to invest further into what JustCBD's built and the collective of where we want to go with product and channel expansion. I think Hussein, you can comment on this too. If anything, I looked at this business and saw that it was hamstrung by capacity. They've done a great job to maximize their footprint and what they're outputting in terms of revenue per square foot. One of the key areas is looking at investing in CapEx and certain production to be able to double capacity. For instance, to be able to support more production and more revenue opportunities as we expand internationally as well. So this is all investment that could be self-funded. The business has done exceptionally well to date, but we're looking at all corners of the room to figure out everywhere from people to process and workflows, where can we continue to optimize and drive this thing home. So we're just building off of Hussein's exceptional formula to date.
Another question that we received, maybe this is a Hussein and James question, but the JustCBD business has very healthy margins. Obviously, we've talked about the downward pressure on the raw goods of CBD and things like that. What are the levers that you guys feel can be pulled in order to maintain those healthy margins and maybe even grow them over time?
Well, as the space gets more competitive, margins do contract, but our cost of goods has dramatically decreased. When we first started, buying raw CBD products, we were paying upwards of $11,000 a kilo. That product is significantly down in the hundreds of dollars instead of the $10,000 plus dollars, and our prices have not really budged from where they were. So operating margins continue to be high. And again, I saw another question in there earlier that asked how do we maintain profitability? It's that, right? We produce a good quality product. We have an incredibly loyal customer base, and we just keep giving them products that they want. They're willing to spend the money on it, on quality, because we could. There's other brands that don't produce the quality and reduce their costs, but our customers are willing to pay for their wellness. So as the cost of goods continue to go downwards, our profitability continues to stay high. So.
It's I'll add to that, the investment in brand innovation, new formulations. These are opportunities to keep your audience engaged. But overall, it's again, going back to the pillars of what Hussein's built, much like what Amazon's done, which is train the entire world to be very responsive. It's amazing today that you can get products at 7 a.m. the next day. Understanding that customer experiences like that and making sure that transit times are quick, that the business is reliable, the customer support is responsive. these are the foundational elements to building consumer confidence. When you think about the numbers that we threw out initially, about 500,000 customer base, and you imagine the 300+ million people in the US alone, we're really just breaking off a small chunk of that block. And to know that the revenues have been as significant as they are and profitability where they are, and knowing that we still have a good chunk of market share to earn, not only here in our backyard, but again, looking at international, sky's the limit. So there's a lot of blue ocean opportunity, but that comes with discipline to make sure that we're not spreading ourselves too thinly across the board either. So again, it goes back to focus on good philosophy around what drives the most meaningful customer experiences for each market, and we deliver to that.
Great, thanks. So obviously the name of the brand is JustCBD, but we know that there are a number of other compounds. And so one question that we received was, what other cannabinoids or compounds are we exploring?
That's another, very exciting question. Look, you have within the cannabis plant, you have hundreds of different cannabinoids, all of which are many of which are unknown still, but there's tremendous amount of research going into the space. I know Flora's R&D team is exceptional as well, and will continue to develop those. But the emerging cannabinoids space is exciting. It's again another hyper growth space for us. So while the name is JustCBD, we will be tapping into other cannabinoids to ensure that we're not only being trend followers but trend leaders. We do want to develop and create segments that the market hasn't seen yet. So there's hundreds of cannabinoids, which means there's hundreds of opportunities for us to capitalize on.
And how do you look at product development? So it's not only about the different compounds that can be leveraged, but you get over 300 products. What's that process?
Well, that's probably one of our biggest competitive advantages, right? Being that we service so many different accounts, those 14,000 independent stores, we hear a lot of chatter, and we hear what the customers that are going to them, these are store owners and distribution owners, all that chatter that goes to them funnels up to us. So you have an incredible amount of information that funnels up. And when a new product is being desired by the market, we hear that pretty quickly. Our turnaround time in terms of our R&D is quick. We do have a very world-class science team in a manufacturing facility here in Florida, and it's as simple as hearing of a trend. After you hear it a couple of times, it's becoming a trend. You develop it, we test it out, and then we release it to the market. Right, the cost to create a product is not high, so we're not afraid to release a product, try it out. If it doesn't work, don't release it. But most of the time, it does work because these are what customers are asking us for. And then we can continue to expand that into our network. So it's very quick turnaround. It's very cheap to do, and again, it's exciting the amount of opportunities are within the space.
You do have to spend a minute highlighting the importance. We always say the data side has been one area that this industry has been handicapped with, meaning it just hasn't had prevalent data outside of some limited retail. But it's important to note philosophically as a business for Flora, again, when you combine some of the proficiencies we have on the vessel side, combined with JustCBD, we are absolutely customer centric. So understanding building something, growing something, then getting the ultimate ticket to the party where consumers are asking for more. That's when you've really arrived. And so listening is absolutely where it begins, but how quickly you can respond to market opportunity once they've given you the ask, that's where we're going to tighten the gap from time to time and ensure that whatever we put out, it's thoughtful and it drives to what consumers are asking for.
Great, thank you. Okay, we have about 2 minutes left. So I'd like to wrap with, I know there is, everybody keeps asking, Luis, can you just let us know when we can expect audited financials to be released? We'll get this one.
Yeah, we are. Thank you, Jesse, for the question. Obviously the more exciting part is to have a conversation about our guidance. That will all come after we file audited financial statements. We are a foreign private issuer, which means that we have up until April 30th to file our audited financial statements. We expect to do so before that deadline. And once we solidify the date for our earnings call and to communicate once again our guidance for 2022, we will let the audience, our investors, know the specific date.
Okay, great, thank you. And just to wrap it up, I think the one question that maybe isn't said, but I know is on everybody's mind, as concise as possible, 1 or 2 points. Why are investors excited about this deal?
People, design, community. The best way to put it. I think James would agree.
I would absolutely agree. I think people for sure, and opportunity to scale. I mean, those are the two things that are critical. It's why we joined. Luis had a great vision when we had first met. It was the first time that any leader in any company had emphasized the value of human capital, and I can't say that enough. It's the #1 pillar in anything we build going forward. We have a multinational cultural organization, global. Bringing together as one team has been an awesome challenge that we've taken on since last year. And so capitalizing on that, the energy in the building is palpable. Adding Hussein and his team is just only going to increase the horsepower on this side. So there's a lot to get done, but yes, scale and the people that we have are absolutely top of mind for me.
Yeah, and I'll close it, Jesse. It's difficult to say just a couple of things that I'm excited about and why investors should be excited about our company and this acquisition. I'll highlight that obviously it will start with people. That has been the foundation of our strategy, and it's highlighted not only like you think in terms of diversity and look at this panel, and obviously it highlights that we're executing on our promise. The second component is that we're executing on all portions of our strategy. We set a very strong foothold in the United States, the biggest market now, and we're both on the East and the West Coast, which will allow us to really permeate the infrastructure and the distribution across the United States. And the potential internationally is just massive. And now we have a tremendous vehicle for that hyper growth, for that scale, for that access to opportunity that both Hussein and James discussed so openly today. I think it's a tremendous opportunity. This is just the beginning of the hyper growth trajectory that Flora Growth is on.
Amazing. Well, thank you all for being a part of this, including the attendees. This has been, I think, really informative for everybody. This is hopefully the first of many of these types of conversations that we hope to host across the next year. Just letting everybody know about, what Flora's intentions are, what our plans are, highlighting all of the really great people that we've brought into the team. So please stay tuned. We will always let everybody know when we're doing more of these. We'll be highlighting cannabis hardware and accessories and the future of that market. We'll be looking toward the future of cannabis and pharma, as well as just broader conversations around plant-based wellness. So look for all of those to come soon. Hussein, welcome to the team. Welcome, JustCBD. We are so thrilled to have the JustCBD family as a part of the Flora family. James, thanks for joining us today. And Luis, of course, thank you as well. Again, we'll be here again soon. Keep an eye out, and thank you all for the time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.